I was reborn in the summer of 1987, the kind of humid southern July where cicadas screech in the trees like broken radios and the air hangs heavy with sweat and secrets. I blinked at the cracked ceiling above my bed, my pulse racing like a trapped rabbit in my chest, and in that first moment, I wasn't sure if I was still dreaming. The scent of damp straw, the rustle of worn cotton sheets, the creak of the old fan above my head, all of it was achingly familiar. Too familiar. Then I heard the familiar clang of the backyard gate, the uneven rhythm of Daniel Carter's boots on gravel, and I knew. I was back. Back before the ruin, back before the betrayal, back before I let myself die in a ditch of regret. The chickens were squawking outside again, stirred by Daniel's heavy steps as he entered the yard. His voice floated in through the window, warm, steady, confident. "Emma, come out here. I need to talk to you." I sat up slowly, still dazed, my palms damp with the kind of sweat that comes from touching old ghosts. I hadn't heard that voice in years, not since the day I died. He was younger, of course, his tone still laced with sincerity instead of scorn. I stood, legs trembling, feet bare on the cool cement floor, and opened the screen door to face the man who would destroy me twice. Daniel smiled like he always did, that boyish tilt of the lips that used to make my heart flutter. "I've been thinking," he began, rubbing the back of his neck, like he was struggling with something noble and selfless. "You're going to college in the city. That's amazing. But I have my mom. She's paralyzed, Emma. And I can't just leave her behind. And you're pure, educated, fragile. How can I ask you to give that up?" My throat tightened. I knew this script too well. He said the same thing in my past life. And like a fool, I believed every word. "Vanessa's different," he added softly, shifting his gaze toward the blooming sunflowers at the fence line. "She's strong, determined. She can make something of herself if we help her get that college spot. You could stay here, take care of things for a while. Wait for me." He said it like he was offering me the highest honor a woman could receive, sacrifice for his dreams, his family, and another woman's future. My past self cried the first time she heard it. My current self wanted to laugh. Bitterness pooled behind my teeth, but I forced my voice to stay level. "You want me to give my spot at the university to Vanessa?" I asked, already knowing the answer. His eyes softened with pretend guilt. "Only for a few years. Then, when I've made enough money, I'll send for you. We'll have a house in the city, a better life. I swear, Emma, I love you. I'll never let you down." But you did. Over and over. My chest burned with the weight of memory. He left me to rot in the countryside with his paralyzed mother, 2 children I bore alone, and a kitchen that never stopped boiling. I slaved over that stove while he wrapped his arms around a pregnant Vanessa in a townhouse he bought with the life I gave up. That life had ended in exhaustion and hunger, my heart stopping somewhere between a final breath and a scream of betrayal. But now I had a second chance. I smiled sweetly. "You're right, Daniel. I was being selfish." His expression lit up like a match to dry leaves, and he reached for my hand. "I knew you'd understand. Vanessa deserves a shot. She's got the kind of ambition that shouldn't be wasted in a place like this." "Of course." I nodded, letting my fingers curl loosely around his. "I'll take the exam for her." He blinked. "What?" I said, "I'll take the entrance exam for Vanessa." I repeated, my voice syrupy. "I'll make sure she passes." He laughed in surprise, then pulled me into an embrace that smelled like sweat and hay. "You're incredible, Emma. We'll get married right after. You'll see. This is the best choice you ever made." It was the worst choice I ever made in my last life. But in this one, I would make it count. That night, I lay on my thin mattress and stared at the cracked ceiling while the village dogs barked at the moon. I pressed a pen into my palm until it drew blood just to remind myself I was alive, awake, and in control. 2 months. I had 2 months before the college entrance exam. I wasn't going to let this opportunity slip through my fingers again. If they wanted me to be the sacrificial lamb, I'd show them what happens when the lamb bites back. By the next morning, I had already gathered every old textbook I could find from the shed, blew dust off the covers, and began memorizing formulas by lantern light. No one suspected a thing. Daniel visited often, pretending to be concerned, bringing me candied fruit like some pathetic token of affection. I accepted it with a smile, knowing that in my past life, those sweets were the scraps Vanessa didn't want. I remembered the way my son once asked for them on his birthday, and how Daniel scolded me for being wasteful. "Do you know how expensive this is?" he had snapped. "You think money grows on trees?" Then I saw Vanessa's table overflowing with imported candies and pastries, and I realized he had just given us her trash. This time, I smiled back at him while the sugar melted on my tongue, each bite laced with acid. "They're sweet," I said. "Thank you." He beamed like a proud husband. The village whispered about us again, but I let them. Let them believe I was the obedient girl who gave up her future for love. Let them laugh behind my back. Because when I stood in that exam room, holding a pen in my hand, I would carve my revenge into every blank space on that test sheet. I studied from dawn till dusk, took no breaks, made no excuses. My fingers cramped, my eyes blurred, but I kept going. I remembered every answer from the last life, cross-checked every possible variation. The questions were etched into my soul. When the day of the exam finally came, I stood outside the dusty school gates, heart hammering like a war drum. Daniel handed me 2 candies and said, "For luck." I took them. "Don't worry," I whispered, slipping them into my pocket. "I'll make sure Vanessa gets everything she deserves." His eyes lit up again, so blindly trusting, so pathetically unaware. I stepped inside the exam hall, found my seat, and stared down at the blank paper with Vanessa's name printed in the corner. I almost laughed. The irony was so delicious I could taste it. I picked up my pen, and with every answer I wrote, I buried the old Emma Dawson. She died in that kitchen, starving and betrayed. This Emma? She was here to burn their world to the ground. And the matches were already lit. The days after the exam passed like slow-moving shadows on cracked concrete, each one warmer, denser, heavier with anticipation. I returned to the farmhouse with aching fingers, a heart simmering just beneath the surface, and a mind that refused to stop calculating. Every glance Daniel gave me, every syrupy compliment he laid like sugar over poison, was just another nail in the coffin I was building for his delusions. I watched him from across the yard as he laughed with the neighbors, his arm casually slung around Vanessa's brother, bragging about what a sacrifice Emma made. The words didn't sting, they festered. Because now I understood what sacrifice really meant. It wasn't noble.
It wasn't romantic.
It was currency. My pain had been the coin they spent to pave their golden road. And this time I was keeping the receipt. Vanessa didn't come around much. She didn't have to. Her absence was more insulting than her presence could ever be. When she did appear, it was like watching a butterfly preen in a pigsty. She wore perfume cheap but ambitious, and her dresses were ironed by someone else's exhausted hands. She looked me up and down as though my sweat and sunburn were contagious, like any moment I might spit poverty at her perfect shoes. "Emma," she'd said one morning, sipping tea from a porcelain cup she definitely didn't pay for, "you really are such a good friend. Daniel says you've been studying night and day. I just hope it wasn't too hard." Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness, but her eyes mocked me quietly, confidently. I smiled. "Hard?
No.
I just hope your results live up to all the faith you've put in me." She blinked, caught off guard for a moment by my tone. Then she laughed too loudly, placing a manicured hand over her mouth like a debutante. "Oh, I'm sure they will. After all, Daniel said you're the smartest girl in the village. That's why we trust you."
We.
That word again. Like they were a royal unit, and I was the loyal peasant. I turned away before I said something that would set this world ablaze too soon. That night, I lit the kerosene lamp and sat in front of the tiny mirror above my wash basin. My face stared back gaunt, lined with fatigue, but eyes so alive they startled even me. I remembered how Vanessa once described me to someone behind my back, not knowing I was within earshot. "She's plain, but she tries hard." It's kind of pathetic, really, like a crow trying to mimic a swan. My hand clenched the edge of the basin so hard I felt splinters. It wasn't about looks. It was about how they saw me less as background noise, as the one who should always carry their burdens while they posed for the spotlight. That's why the candied fruit meant so much. Not for its sweetness, but for its truth. In my last life, My son had asked me just once for candied fruit on his birthday. Just once. I had begged Daniel for the money, thinking I was asking for gold. He'd sneered at me, called me ungrateful, told me I didn't understand how hard it was for him to earn a living. He said I should be more like Vanessa, refined, restrained, smart. You always want things, he'd snapped, and you think you deserve them just because you gave up school? Grow up, Emma. You're a mother now. I hadn't argued. I'd swallowed the shame like medicine and returned to cooking porridge with salted radish for dinner. But later, I found Vanessa's wastebasket full of candied fruit wrappers, still sticky, discarded like her promises. And I understood. He gave us what she threw away. In this new life, he handed me 2 pieces of that same candy before the exam, trying to replay the manipulation. But this time, I let the sweetness melt with my smile, knowing that every saccharine bite was paid back tenfold in my mind's war ledger. The village was buzzing now. Results were coming soon. Everyone had opinions, predictions, bets placed as if the college entrance exam were some festival game. Vanessa's gonna top the charts, someone told my mother at the market. She's got Daniel and Emma both backing her. That girl's destined for greatness. My mother didn't argue. She just nodded, face blank, eyes unreadable. She hadn't spoken much to me since I told her I'd given up my place. I could see it in her face, the same bitterness I'd seen in my old life. Only now I understood it better. She didn't resent me for losing the spot. She resented me for being too easy to manipulate. She thought I was weak. And in a way, she wasn't wrong then.
But now?
Now, I was learning to wield my weakness like a knife. The night before the results were due to be announced, I lay awake staring at the rafters, heart pulsing in time with the crickets outside. Daniel had come by again, bringing bread and duck eggs, smiling like a man proud of his investment. You'll see, he said as he leaned by the doorway. After tomorrow, we're on the road to the future. I wanted to ask whose future?
Mean it?
Or the one you've built on my back for her. But I didn't. I just nodded, eyes soft, mouth silent. Because the truth would speak for itself. The next morning, the sun rose too fast, the heat oppressive, thick like guilt. Vanessa wore her best dress, pink satin with tiny embroidered roses. She walked through the village square like a queen going to claim her crown. Daniel followed close behind, suit pressed, hair combed with the care of a man about to propose to destiny. I stood behind them both, unnoticed by design. The school hall was packed, villagers craning necks to glimpse the red banner, where the results were pinned. Vanessa's fingers trembled with excitement as she waited for the official to pull away the cloth. Don't be nervous, Daniel whispered, touching her back. You're about to see your name in lights. She giggled. I hope I'm first in the city. The cloth dropped. Silence.
A beat.
Then another. Then chaos. Vanessa stepped forward, confused, blinking at the paper like it had betrayed her. That's not right, she murmured. That has to be a mistake. Daniel's jaw dropped. 0? How is it 0? People began murmuring. 0. But she studied so hard. Did she even take the exam? Vanessa turned on me like a hurricane, eyes wild. Emma, what did you do? I looked at her, slow and calm. I took the exam, just like I promised. But what happened? Did you mess it up on purpose? I shrugged, then offered a faint smile. I said I'd take it seriously. I didn't say what the outcome would be. She stepped toward me, but the mayor's car pulled into the courtyard just then, brakes screeching, doors flinging open. A man in a crisp white shirt stepped out, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning the crowd. We're looking for Vanessa Blair, he said. Top scorer in the city. We'd like to speak with her directly. Vanessa's face lit up with confused hope. That's me. The mayor tilted his head. Are you sure? We just have some questions about your test paper and its origins. And just like that, the panic began. The moment the mayor said her name, I watched the color drain from Vanessa's face, as though someone had pulled a stopper on her confidence and let it bleed out slowly into the dust. Her lips parted, forming a confused smile too stiff to be sincere, the kind of smile a child gives when caught with chocolate on her fingers and no idea how to lie fast enough. I'm Vanessa Blair, she said, brushing invisible lint from her collar, voice laced with practiced sweetness. Top scorer? That's me, yes. I studied very hard. The official from the city raised one brow, unimpressed. He didn't even look at her directly. Then perhaps you can explain something for us. He pulled a folded document from his briefcase with a kind of casual precision that made me shiver like a butcher sharpening his knives. Your answer sheet, he said, unfolding it carefully, is identical to the official answer key. Not just in answers, but in phrasing, spacing, even typographical errors. Down to the comma. The crowd inhaled in one stunned breath. Someone dropped a cup. It shattered against the stones with a sharp, accusatory crack. Vanessa blinked rapidly, her voice caught in her throat. That's a coincidence, maybe? I mean, I studied so hard. Coincidences don't plagiarize punctuation. The mayor snapped, voice colder now, clipped and brisk. We've had anonymous reports. Multiple, in fact. Someone tampered with this year's test. I watched Vanessa's composure unravel in layers, first her hands, trembling slightly as they gripped her skirt, then her eyes, wide and wet, darting between the crowd and Daniel, who stood frozen beside her like a man who'd just realized the scaffold he built was about to collapse. You can't accuse me without proof, she shrieked, voice rising in pitch. I passed. I earned that score. She was yelling now, grabbing at Daniel's arm like it was the only branch above quicksand. Tell them I studied for years, that I deserved this. Daniel cleared his throat, face pale, sweat shining on his temples. Let's not jump to conclusions, he said, tone placating, attempting damage control. There must be some misunderstanding. Maybe she got lucky, or maybe someone entered the score wrong. Or maybe someone took the exam for her, the official said flatly. My heart skipped a beat. The crowd shifted. Eyes turned. Whispers began like dry leaves rustling before a storm. I could feel their curiosity prickling at my back. It would be so easy to let the silence take them down. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Vanessa stepped toward me now, her mascara already smudged, her expression twisted with disbelief and fury. Emma, she hissed, so close I could see the red thread on the edge of her collar. You were supposed to help me. You said you'd help me. And I did. I replied calmly, folding my hands behind my back. I filled out every line, every answer, with care. Then why is it 0? Maybe, I said, tilting my head. The truth finally decided to show up for once. Vanessa screamed and lunged at me like a wild animal, but Daniel pulled her back, arms tight around her waist, as if trying to strangle the scandal into submission. You don't understand, she sobbed into his chest. She's doing this on purpose. She hates me. She's jealous. She tricked me. The crowd murmured again, voices rising like smoke. Is that true? Someone asked aloud. Did Emma really take the exam for her? So all those years she said she was too delicate to farm she was studying? Daniel always said Vanessa was a genius. Guess she was just a parasite. Daniel's face twitched, the corners of his mouth tightening into a rictus of denial. She just needed help, he stammered. It was all for the greater good. Vanessa has potential. She's not made for this kind of life. Emma was just being kind. Kindness, I said softly, stepping forward, isn't giving away your future because someone else thinks they deserve it more. It's not swallowing your dreams to serve someone else's appetite. I turned to the mayor, my voice steady. I have nothing to hide. If you want, I'll write another test right now. Same conditions. Same time limit. No need, he replied, though his expression had softened. You've already said more than enough. But Vanessa wasn't done. She twisted from Daniel's grip and pointed a trembling finger at me. This is your fault. You made me believe you were loyal, but all you ever wanted was to destroy me. You think you're better than me just because you can memorize some books. No, I said, voice cool, collected, razor sharp. I don't think I'm better than you. I just know I'm not a fraud. The word hung in the air like a slap. Vanessa's knees gave slightly, her frame sagging as the mayor's assistant pulled a pair of dull steel handcuffs from his satchel. She screamed. Not in pain, but in panic and animal sound, guttural and raw. No, no, no. You can't arrest me. My father is the village chief. He'll never let this happen. I'm the one who's meant to leave. Not her. I have a future. You had a lie, the official corrected, motioning for her to be restrained. You'll have to build your future from inside a courtroom now. But Daniela's face shifted from panic to calculation in a blink. I saw it happen. The way his eyes sharpened, the way his hand subtly slipped from Vanessa's shoulder like he never touched her at all. Wait, he called out suddenly. You're arresting the wrong person. Emma was the one who took the test. She's the real criminal here. She tricked Vanessa into this. She was jealous because I chose Vanessa over her, and now she's trying to ruin everything. The breath caught in my throat not out of fear, but rage. How quick he turned. How easy it was for him to hurl me beneath the wheels of his own guilt. You want proof, he continued, stepping forward. Test her. Make her write another exam. If she scores the same, then maybe we'll believe her. But if she fails, it proves she's lying. That she rigged it all. The mayor's gaze flicked to me. Would you agree to that? I looked at Daniel, this man I once called my future, this man who looked at me now like I was disposable. Gladly, I said. But only if Vanessa takes one too. The mayor nodded. Agreed. And just like that, the second test was arranged. But before I entered the room, Daniel followed me quietly, cornering me outside the school hall, voice low, trembling with something between desperation and threat. Emma, he said, leaning in, his breath warm and sour. I know you hate me. But you don't want to do this. Think about your future. About my mother. About everything we went through. Help me this one last time, and I swear I'll marry you. We'll leave all of this behind. You want me to cheat? I said plainly. Again. Just read the questions to her through the wall. She's terrified. I am too. If we go down, what do you think they'll say about you? You weren't on it, remember? I stared at him, cold rising like steel up my spine. And slowly I nodded. Okay, I said, voice hollow. One last time. His eyes lit up. He touched my hand. You won't regret this. But he was wrong. I wouldn't. Because this time, I had a different plan. The room they put Vanessa in was small, barely more than a converted storage closet with a single rickety desk and the buzz of a failing ceiling fan overhead. Outside, the late summer sun pressed against the window panes like a nosy neighbor, and in the village square, people gathered in small huddled clusters, whispering with barely restrained hunger for scandal. Daniel paced near the doorway like a man with a noose cinched around his ankles, each step slower than the last, his forehead shiny with sweat he kept trying to wipe away with the sleeve of his shirt. I could almost hear the frantic rhythm of his heart. It was the same rhythm I'd once felt while lying awake beside him, hoping his silence meant dreams of us, not plans for someone else. Now, he couldn't look at me without fear flickering in his eyes like candlelight in a gust. Remember, he muttered, voice sharp with urgency and low enough to avoid ears. Just read the questions to her when I signal. We'll slip the answers back through the door crack. No one will see. No one will know. I said nothing. Just handed him a folded slip of paper, neatly written in my own careful handwriting. Start with this, I said. I already reviewed the likely test structures from last year. He grinned, relief surging across his face like a man finding fresh water in a drought. I knew you wouldn't abandon me, he breathed, reaching for my hand again. I let him hold it. Let him believe. Then I watched him walk into that room like a lamb leading another to slaughter. What neither of them realized was that behind the opposite wall, 3 officials, 2 proctors, and the village mayor were seated with a clear view of everything, muffled microphones embedded near the exam table, a peephole cut into the far cabinet wall, a tape recorder already rolling. I'd helped them install it. I'd offered the idea. I'd baited the trap myself. Because this time, I wouldn't be left gasping for air while someone else stood on my chest. I wouldn't die quietly in a kitchen while lies built mansions for the wicked. The retest began. Vanessa sat at her desk, chewing her lower lip raw, the paper trembling beneath her fingers. Her confidence had crumbled into ash, and I watched her crack beneath pressure she wasn't bred to handle. Daniel sat behind the thin divider, whispering questions like a fevered priest, and I, standing just outside, scribbled the correct answers on a separate sheet, stuffing them back through the slit at the base of the door like I was passing secret love notes. The absurdity made me want to laugh.
And cry.
And scream. All at once. In my mind, I saw a flicker of the past-me son, maybe 6 years old, clinging to my apron, asking if we could buy real milk instead of powder. Me telling him next month, maybe next time, all while patching his shoes for the third time that year. All because I had believed Daniel Carter when he said love meant sacrifice. But love, I've come to learn, does not starve you in the name of loyalty. Love does not use your spine as a bridge for another woman's ambition. Hurry, Daniel hissed through the door, panic creeping into the edges of his voice. Vanessa's almost done. We just need one more set. I took my time, doodled a tiny heart on the corner of the page, slipped the final sheet under the door. Then I stepped back just in time for the mayor to signal the observers. The door burst open. Vanessa shrieked. Daniel scrambled to his feet, the pages still in his hand, the ink not even dry. The officials didn't raise their voices, they didn't have to. Authority arrived in silence, dressed in navy suits and calm efficiency. Miss Blair, one of them said, voice like frost on glass, you are under investigation for academic fraud and conspiracy to cheat a federal examination. Mr. Carter, you are now an accomplice. Vanessa went stiff, her face blank. Then it hit. She screamed not like a girl, not even like a woman, but like a soul being dragged backwards into fire.
No.
This isn't real. You set me up. You said you'd help me. She turned, clutching at Daniel's shirt like it could anchor her in a world that was dissolving fast. You promised. But Daniel was already unraveling. His hands were shaking, and he turned on me, desperation twisting his mouth into something grotesque. You did this, he barked. You wanted this all along. You tricked me into helping you cheat the system. You planned everything. That's enough, the mayor said coldly. We have recordings, eyewitnesses, handwriting analysis. Even the examination camera caught the exchange. Vanessa tried to bolt. She made it halfway to the door before the cuffs clicked shut around her wrists. The sound echoed like a judge's gavel. Wait, please, she cried, turning toward me, eyes wild and brimming. Emma, say something. Say, it was a misunderstanding. You've always been good at explaining things, haven't you? You're smart. You can fix this. I didn't move, didn't blink, just watched as her carefully built fantasy burned down around her. You said you'd give me everything, she whispered, choking on tears. You said I could have it all. I just wanted to shine. I didn't mean no, I said softly. You didn't mean to get caught. Daniel lunged toward me as they pulled Vanessa away. You think you've won? That they'll believe you forever? You think you're better than us? No, I replied, stepping back as the officers stepped between us. I just stopped pretending I wasn't. You're poor, he sneered, fighting the cuffs as they pulled him away. You'll always be poor. No matter what school you get into. No matter how many books you read. You'll never be one of them. I looked him straight in the eye, heart calm, hands steady. I'd rather be poor with integrity than rich off someone else's soul. As they were dragged out of the building, still shouting, still blaming, the mayor turned to me and held out a single envelope, cream-colored, gold-stamped, still warm from the press. Congratulations, he said simply. We've reviewed your original exam under your real name. Your results are among the highest in the state. You've earned a full scholarship to our top university, with housing and stipend included. If you'll accept. My breath caught. My legs nearly gave out. The sun outside seemed to pause for a second, like even the sky wanted to watch this moment unfold. Yes, I whispered. I accept. He nodded, then added with a knowing look, and thank you for your cooperation. Catching these two will serve as a warning. This was justice. But for me, it wasn't just justice. It was resurrection. I walked out into the heat of the day, the crickets screaming louder now, the scent of rain hanging just behind the wind. The village watched me pass. Some whispered. Others bowed their heads. But no one dared mock me.
Not now.
Not anymore. And though my hands still ached from writing too many answers for people who never earned them, I finally felt light enough to breathe. My name was mine again. My future mine. And I was far from finished. The quiet after their arrest didn't feel like peace. It felt like the pause between heartbeats after a scream, unnatural, stretched too thin, like the world was waiting for something to fill the void. The village didn't know what to do with me now. The same people who used to whisper behind my back at the market stalls now crossed the road to avoid my eyes. Some offered stiff smiles, unsure if they should treat me like a local hero or a loaded gun. I didn't care. For once, their silence felt like freedom. I spent my last week in the village walking the familiar dirt paths with no purpose except to breathe. The air tasted different now, honest, tinged with dust, and something that almost resembled hope. I visited the hill behind the old grain warehouse where the wildflowers still bloomed, where I used to sit with my books and pretend the world was fair. The wind tugged at my hair gently, and I let it. I didn't need to pretend anymore. But then, the ghosts began returning. Not the kind that live in graveyards, the kind that wear the faces of the people you once trusted. The ones who still breathe. It was late afternoon when Daniel's mother came knocking. I didn't recognize her voice at first through the cracked screen door. Years of paralysis had softened it, made it tremble like tissue in a storm. "Emma," she called, "I heard about what happened. Can we talk?" I opened the door, unsure why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe duty. She was thinner than I remembered, skin sagging against her bones, eyes cloudy but alert. She leaned on a cane with trembling hands. "I know I don't deserve to ask anything from you," she said without preamble, "but I'm not here for Daniel. I'm here for me." I crossed my arms, wary. "What is it?" "I know what he did," she continued. "Not all the details, but enough. He stopped writing to me a year ago. I should have known that silence wasn't just busyness. It was shame." Her voice cracked. "And I think he used you because he knew you wouldn't fight back." "He was right," I said. "Until I did." She nodded slowly, tears pooling in her cloudy eyes. "I wanted to thank you. Not for what you did to him, but for what you didn't let him do to you again." I didn't know what to say. My heart was stone, but some small part of me, the part that still remembered brushing her hair and spooning broth into her mouth while my own stomach growled, softened. I nodded once. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out something small, a copper locket, faded with age.
"This was mine," she said.
"I don't have money or land or anything worth offering, but take this. For remembering who you were, even when we didn't." I took the locket, not because I needed it, but because sometimes grace comes from unexpected places, and it's cruel to spit in its face. After she left, I stood in the doorway, watching her silhouette retreat into the sun. The wind picked up again, dust curling through the air, and I finally let myself cry not out of sadness, but from the weight of surviving. That night I packed my things. Not that there was much, just a few clothes, a battered notebook, the acceptance letter, and the locket. As I folded my last dress, I found a crumpled photo wedged in the corner of the drawer. It was old, grainy. Me, Daniel, and Vanessa standing in front of the village school. I was smiling like I didn't know the world could collapse. I tore it in half. Then again, until it was nothing but dust between my fingers. The next morning, the village square was unusually still. I was waiting for the bus that would take me to the train that would take me to the university. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Emma. It was Daniel's younger sister, Lila. A girl who used to braid my hair and copy my homework and call me Big Sis like it meant something. Her eyes were wide with desperation. "He wants to see you. Just once. Please." "Why?" "He said he had something to tell you. That it's important." I should have walked away. But I didn't. Maybe because I needed to hear it. Maybe because I wanted to see how far he'd fallen. They brought me to the holding house at the edge of the district, a dull gray building with barred windows and a rusted lock that screeched when it opened. He was behind the glass, wearing the same shirt from that day, now stained and wrinkled. He looked smaller, like the air had been sucked out of him. But his eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, still flickered with the same fire. "Emma," he breathed. "You came." "You have 5 minutes," the guard said. "Talk." Daniel pressed his palms to the glass. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I've ruined everything. But I need to know why. Why now? Why like this?" I stared at him for a long time. Then I leaned forward. "Because you made me believe I didn't deserve more. And I did." He swallowed. "You loved me once." "No," I said. "I loved who I thought you were. Not who you chose to be." He pressed his forehead against the glass, voice low. I thought I was doing the right thing. Giving Vanessa a future. Building something. On whose back?
I asked. Meaning?
He didn't answer. Just stared at the floor, defeated. Take care of my mother, he said quietly.
She's all alone now.
She doesn't deserve to suffer for my choices. I already have, I said, and turned to leave. The door slammed shut behind me with a finality that echoed like thunder. On the way out, I looked up at the sky. It was pale blue, cloudless, the kind of morning that promised change. I boarded the bus with a full heart and an empty past. The road ahead stretched long and unfamiliar, but for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I wasn't afraid. As we pulled away from the village, I didn't look back, because nothing there owned me anymore. I'd burned the chains. All that was left now was light. The city unfolded before me like a story I'd only read in dreams, towering buildings of concrete and glass etched against the sky, streets pulsing with rhythm, the scent of gasoline and roasted chestnuts mixing in a strangely comforting perfume of chaos and potential. I arrived with a suitcase that barely closed and a mind that wouldn't shut up, filled with ghosts, plans, and an unfamiliar freedom that terrified me more than any betrayal ever had. The university gates stood wide like arms outstretched, and for a long moment I hesitated at the threshold, wondering if some invisible force might drag me back, whisper in my ear that I wasn't meant for this. But no one came. The only voice was my own, steady, quiet, repeating a single truth. You earned this. I stepped inside. Orientation passed in a blur, forms to fill, ID cards to issue, dorm keys that felt too shiny in my palm. My assigned room was small, but clean, the kind of space that didn't echo disappointment. I touched the desk gently, imagining the nights I'd spend here, not breaking under pressure, but building something real. My roommate, a girl named Melissa, greeted me with a quick smile and curious eyes. You're the one from that cheating scandal story, right? The one who exposed it, she asked with the casual awe only strangers can give. I nodded, unsure how to carry the weight of that identity yet. Was it worth it? She asked. I paused before answering. It wasn't about revenge, I said slowly. Not really. It was about remembering I had a name. She didn't press further. We settled into a rhythm, quiet nights, mutual respect, shared snacks, and exam panic. The campus library became my second home. I spent hours between the shelves, not just because I had to, but because I wanted to. Knowledge had stopped being a weapon for someone else's where it had become mine. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. I was just living. And yet, late at night when the windows frosted with cold and the city dimmed to a hum, the past would sometimes slip under the door like smoke. I'd remember the weight of a baby on my hip, the burn of soil under my nails, the quiet shame of knowing I was always someone's second choice. But those memories no longer strangled me. They floated beside me like old photographs, visible, but harmless. Midway through the semester, I received a letter. Thick envelope. Government seal. I opened it with cautious fingers, scanning the contents once, then again. It was an official commendation and acknowledgement of my cooperation in uncovering a systemic academic fraud ring. Apparently, Vanessa's father had been part of a wider bribery chain, and my case had sparked a national investigation. The letter ended with one line that made my hands tremble. Your integrity lit the path. Thank you. I folded it slowly, pressing it into the back of my journal like a pressed flower. It wasn't validation I needed, but it was good to know the truth had taken root somewhere beyond me. Weeks later, in a quiet moment between lectures, I received another unexpected message. A visitor was waiting at the gate. Confused, I made my way down, heart in my throat, only to find Lila again. Daniel's sister. She looked older, more grounded, a stack of letters clutched in her hand. He asked me to give you these, she said simply. He writes every week. Says he knows you won't answer, but he keeps writing anyway. I took the letters silently. They were bound in twine, worn at the edges, the ink smudged in places like tears had made their way across paper. I didn't open them. I never would. But I kept them for closure, not forgiveness. He wanted to know if you were happy, Lila added. I looked at her, eyes softening. Tell him I'm learning. I didn't owe him the word happy. Happiness wasn't a destination you arrived at, it was something you built with your own bruised hands. That night, I sat by the window of the library's top floor, knees tucked to my chest, city lights glittering below like someone had spilled the stars. I thought of the girl I used to beta, one who cried while patching worn-out clothes, who memorized entire textbooks by candlelight while pretending her sacrifices would one day matter. I wished I could reach across time and touch her face, tell her she wasn't weak for loving or for hoping. She just needed to stop doing it at the expense of herself. I closed my eyes and imagined her smiling back at me, older, stronger, not bitter but whole. That's who I was now. Not a victim. Not a martyr. Not a girl hiding in the margins. I was Emma Dawson. And this time the story was mine.